You're a part of the new wave of promotion, I guess, for UFC. It's a lot different as far as being accepted mainstream than it was, 10, 15 years ago, which is awesome.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was talking about earlier, like, we went from, like, I remember, going to Boston to go try to get the Boston Globe to put us in the leisure section. And then now, to the point, like, a couple years ago, I had them call me up to ask me where I like to vacation to put that in their leisure section. So it's come a long way.
What's a defining moment or one of your favorite moments when you sit back and look at your body of work?
If I had to pick one, I mean, I'd probably say my second fight with Randy, because I'd lost to him before. And he's a great fighter. I came back and won impressively. I won him with a knockout.
Have you taken anything up to replace that adrenaline rush that you got from when you were an active competitor?
I still train. I had a problem with my hand, so I took some time off. But I like jiu-jitsu. I'm sorry. I like doing that. I like I still like training with guys and sparring with guys. I'll go snowboard now some. But, I mean, that's the one thing when I retired, the hard thing was, where do you go from here? What do I do now? Like, I've always had the top goal. I know where I was going all the time. I want to be the best in the world. And everything took second seat to that. Not having that for a while was a little bit rough. I went through a little phase where I'm like, man, I don't know, what am I doing? Like, and I can see how people go back out of retirement a lot of times, maybe when they shouldn't even, but because you're lost. I mean, it's nice having it's nice having that goal, that thing that you drive for.
How was that transition from not only going into being a UFC legend, but then going into retirement and then fatherhood? How's that going for you?
Well, I have a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. I love being a father.
That's awesome.
That's one of my favorite things. Nothing's better than being with my kids. You have the worst day in the world, walk home, there's one smile from my daughter, I'm good.
You've done some acting. Is that something you want to continue to do? Do you enjoy doing that?
Yeah, I enjoy doing it. I'm having fun with it. I started taking lessons. I'm working on it. If I'm going to do anything, I want to do it well.
When you look at the current UFC product, who's a fighter that you really enjoy watching?
I like watching Conor McGregor's. It's funny. I got a lot of flack from his fans about saying I don't like the way he talks, because they took that out of my whole interview as a quote at the top, right? And I think I responded to someone like that. I said, "Look, moron, you didn't read the article. If you read the article, there's no way you can think I said something bad about him."
This year, it's kind of the opposite. Where right now, I don't feel like a Hall of Famer. They told me I wasn't. I don't feel like a Hall of Famer. Just excited and honored to be on the list again. But I think much more reserved this year. Where now it's like, if it happens, unbelievable. It'll be awesome. But you don't have the same, I think, anxiety going through the process that I had last year. And I'll just wait. And I'm not a Hall of Famer until they tell me I am. And I'm okay with that.
Looking back at your career, your postseason numbers, one of the most prolific passers, it almost seemed like it was easier for you to focus in those big games.
I would just say one of my greatest gifts was my ability to focus. And the bigger the moment, the more I was able to focus. And so, regular season was great, and I enjoyed those games. But you get to a point, and I think because I had success so early and won the championship the first year, where every year the 16 games were really just setting me up for the postseason. I mean, that was really how I looked at it, is that I enjoyed playing and I wanted to win, but more importantly, I wanted to compete against the best in the world, and I wanted to get to the postseason and do that part of it, because I felt like that's where I had the ability to kind of separate myself.
What are your feelings with the Rams relocating to Los Angeles?
Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed, I think, like everybody that was involved with this team in St. Louis. So much of my career, my history, how it started, the community there, and how they supported us and me at the beginning of my career. I mean, it's just such a phenomenal experience for me when I was there. And I know what kind of fans, and I know what the community was like when I was there. So I'm disappointed for them. But I'll also say I'm a realist, and I understand the move. I understand the business part of it. I understand how it makes sense for the Rams to go back to L.A., being that they were there for 40 years beforehand. I don't know where I fit in the history of the Rams now, because they're no longer in St. Louis. But more importantly, I feel bad for the community, because they were so unbelievable for me. Mooch was my quarterback coach when I was first in Green Bay.
Yeah.
So even though I know it wasn't his decision, we talk about all the time how he's the one that cut not me. It was his, his fault that I was working in a grocery store, and it took me so long to get there. So we never let Mooch live anything down.
Is it true that in that Green Bay era that you didn't feel ready?
That is true. They tried to put me into practice, my second day there where they just given me the playbook. And I kind of had the approach that I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know if I can call the play in the huddle. And I took the approach that if I don't go in, then I can't screw up and they can't send me home. And it turned out that I didn't go in, and it just kind of showed them, well, we don't want this guy leading our team if he's afraid to go in and fail, even if it's the second day of camp. And so learned a great lesson from that as a player and a guy in that position, you can't ever be afraid to fail. If you're afraid to fail, you'll never fully succeed the way you want to. So true story that did happen, but I learned a lot from it, and I think it helped shape who I would become later on.
Everybody likes to accept accolades. Obviously, it's human nature, but at the same time, how do you keep that fire burning to get better and better? Because you're only going into year 3 now.
Hard work, not being satisfied. I feel like I've been doing good, but I know I can do better. That's the thing. When people talk about it, it's like, I'm like, I did good, but I know I could do so much better. That's the thing, that's the scary thing. When you talk about 3 techs, you always got to talk about guys like John Randall, Warren Sapp, Laurie Glover. Them is guys that that you got to respect as 3 techs, and that I watched a lot of Warren Sapp. I watched a lot of John Randall.
Have you thought about putting the eye black like John Randall?
No, I ain't an eye black guy, but I wouldn't. I'll try, but I ain't that type of guy. I'm just, I feel like I got a good looking face. I want to show it off.
Yeah,
so.
you need to show that off.
Yes, Cold Stone Creamery, the ice cream that is fortifying and helps you be smarter.
Kenny Mayne would make a great delivery man.
That would have been a fun job, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Everyone loves you. Who doesn't love the ice cream man? Then you pull in that one block where you got all the hellions who steal it, and then you know them from junior high, and they might beat you up, and you got that problem. But
I am smarter already from the scoop that I ate.
I get to play quarterback for the Wounded Warrior Amputee Flag football team. We're playing ex-NFL guys. I've done it. Snoop Dogg's on our team. And he's legit. He got last year. He caught a touchdown. He had a pick. And the thing he really brings, he's very serious. He wants to go. Like, I'm the same way. I'm 56 years old, but I still want to prove I can throw football. Like, why wouldn't I? It's like, and it's funny when it comes to football how people think you're weird or you're being too, hanging on to your high school or something. It's like, why, if I went to play golf, do good golfers play poorly, or is it okay that they play well? Like, I don't know why football has a distinct notion that you're being too fake macho if you try to be good. That doesn't make any sense.
Probably because the older you get, the more likely you are to get injured playing football.
Maybe.
Will you be bringing some ice cream to Snoop? I got to imagine he's always hungry.
Could be. He and Ricky both could be hungry.
That's right.
Whatever they do is their personal business, but they show up to play. Like, I lost the Sonics, okay? The Starbucks guy sold our basketball team to people from Oklahoma. They took the Sonics to become the Thunder. I'm kind of over it, but I'm not. Like, I don't go to Starbucks. That's my little, you're drinking Starbucks.
I am.
I totally empathize with the people of St. Louis for losing something that became theirs. Won Super Bowls, had all that success.
Speaking of Seattle, is it written in the guidelines for TV media that anytime you go to Seattle, you have to film someone throwing a fish?
Pike Place Market, yeah. We did that story and made fun of it while we did it.
Nice.
So hopefully that counts as, I don't understand at all why that has to be in every shot. There's so many other things. I would go underground Seattle, or I would go out of town and show Snoqualmie Falls, or I think the ferries going across the water are pretty. Why is it always the fish? I'm watching the debate tonight. The Democrats are debating tonight, 2 of them. O'Malley dropped out, right? So it's just 2 anyway.
He should have dropped out the day he did the Taylor Swift Bad Blood acoustic song. How do you think Tom Landry would fare today with the influx of all the media and the social media and dealing with the younger players today?
He would deal with it well, but he would have a problem with worrying about how the players handle it. Are they losing their concentration? Can they stay focused on the task? You know what I'm saying? You take my first Super Bowl was Super Bowl 10. There's no comparison in the hype, the media hype that you have then versus now. And normally during a season, you have about 8 players on both sides of the ball to get all the media attention. Now it's everybody. So can that guy who's not used to it stay focused on what he's got to do on Sunday? That would be my biggest concern.
During your career, before the sack wasn't an official stat, I think the Cowboys say unofficially you have around 105 career sacks. Have you thought about that as far as where you might have ended up if that had been tallied from the get-go?
I don't. You know, playing with Landry in a flex defense is a very disciplined defense designed to shut the run down, force you into sure passing situation. So you have to become a team player. You have to throw stats out of the window. Well, McMahon asked me if I would participate in the Battle Royal in Chicago. Russ Francis, that played tight end for the 49ers, was involved. William Perry, that played for the Bears, was involved. And they wanted a Cowboy. They asked me. And I say it sounds fun. But when it got close to the event, Coach Tex Schramm, our general manager, heard about it, called me and told me, he said, do you realize if you get hurt, what could happen? I said, well, they have insurance on me. He said, well, what about us? I said, you need to talk to Vince McMahon. And that conversation didn't go well, to the point where Vince called me and said, Ed, we've used your name in advertisement. We want to keep you involved. Will you be an outside ring official with Dick Buckus? When a guy gets tossed, don't let him go back in. I said, sure.
Now, Andre the Giant won that Battle Royal. Yes. Did you get a chance to meet him and stand toe-to-toe with him?
I had a chance to meet him and found out he was a big Tom Landry fan.
Really?
Yeah.
How about that?
The only time I've ever felt a little intimidated in my life was when I had lunch with Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy, and Andre the Giant.
My God, what was the tab on that lunch?
Food tab wasn't bad. The beer tab now is a different story. It was an experience hanging out with them that I will never forget.
And you mentioned your love of boxing, and you had a foray with boxing for a brief period.
1 year, yes, 6 fights.
And you won all 6 of them. What possessed you to do that? Just a new challenge?
Still to this day, it's my favorite sport.
Okay.
And it's something that I had to get out of my system.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to be 40 years old never pursuing a lifelong dream. So when I got that out of my system, those 6 fights in 1 year, those next 10 years when I came back to Dallas was 10 of the best years of my professional career.
35-0, 34 knockouts. And if people don't know, you got boxing, you started boxing really to support your daughter. Give us a little insight and go into that story if you don't mind.
Correct. I was in college actually when I knew she was on the way. She was born with spina bifida. We all pray for a healthy child. You know? Oh my goodness, it was a scary feeling for me. Probably one of the most scariest things I ever had to go through in my life. I feel like my daughter's was my sport now, you know, and so I immediately quit. College, got not only a job but 2 jobs. I felt boxing was the place for me to go, but I was ignorant to the sport then because I feel like every fighter that stepped in the ring made a lot of money. I didn't know it was a process to get in there, but so I went into this gym, man. It was like when I went into the gym, I heard this song. Hallelujah. Man, I knew it then. Just everything was just one sound to me. The speed bag, the heavy bag, the sparring, the guys talking, the coaching. Everything was like one sound, and that's when I knew I was at the right place. My ultimate goal is to unify the division and have all the belts. Yes, I am greedy. So when people say the heavyweight champion of the world, they're referring to only one name, one person, and that's Deontay Wilder. And I brought my belt because a lot of people don't get an opportunity to see that in person. She's always looking good, and I call her Sophia.
Sophia. I like that name. You mentioned you'd love to get to the point where you can unify the heavyweight scene and be the one champ, the undisputed champ. What are some other things that you or that the sport can do to get boxing back to where it was? Because you alluded to that, and I think the sports world is a much better place when boxing is must-see TV.
Right, most definitely. Well, you know, there's a lot of politics and corruption in boxing. You know, dealing with networks, dealing with promoters, dealing with you know, all types of people like that, because everybody don't get along, and that's one of the biggest, especially with the networks. You have this Showtime fighter, you have our HBO fighter. That eliminates the great fights that could potentially happen.
The nickname, the Bronze Bomber.
Yeah.
Where did it come from? How'd you come up with it?
It came from the Olympics. I got the bronze, but we dedicated the name to Joe Louis, which is from Alabama. A lot of people thought he was from Michigan. We got Joe Louis, Evander Holyfield, and Ernie Shavers, all those Alabama guys guys. And Joe Louis was the brown bomber, and I became the bronze bomber due to the Olympics, so we just put it together.
You were catching passes from Bart Starr, and you played with Paul Hornung. I mean, this is you're a walking encyclopedia of NFL history.
That's one of the greatest thing about me is I play with two great teams and coaches and players.
Yeah, I mean Lombardi and Shula. That's maybe the two greatest head coaches ever. And you're a part of that perfect Miami Dolphins team as well. How did Shula and Lombardi compare just from a pregame motivational standpoint?
The way I sum it up is Lombardi was a coach of life. Today we're going to have a game, and today we're going to play this game. And 10 years from now, nobody's not going to remember the game but you. It's how you play that game. See, he taught a game of life. And you're going to do things today that you're going to do 10 years from now. So do them right now so you can do them right then. And where Shula was a great football coach. We have to do this and this and this. And like in the last football season, so many teams lost from mistakes. Little simple mistakes. And mistakes will kill you.
Well, they're coming to L.A. I'm sorry to have you lose your ramp. So sorry, but there'll be more time to read good books.
That's right. What are those?
So that's the Silver Cloud. The glass is half full, I think, of good books.
This one we're really squeezed down, so there's a lot of motivation, and I have a little bit of that.
Well, more than a little bit. He's being, but he plays your character, and the way you do it, it's one of the great human, soulful, leaderly characters, isn't it? I know a lot of people get a big kick out of that, and I don't know what I'm talking about. But
I think what you're trying to say is he is on the Mount Rushmore of fictional Hollywood presidents.
Yes, I'm saying it poorly, but he's much admired by myself as well as being a great man. That character is a great president, and
I mean, I would place my vote with Whitmore over Jed Bartlett of the West Wing.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
I did just recently do something with Martin Sheen,
nice.
And you realize it's interesting when you see there is that presidential aspect in him. That's been very caring and a real humanist.
I don't know, like Cam, does he remind you of anybody?
I don't think there's ever really been anybody like him. He's so big, and he's developed himself into such a great passer that I feel like you factor that in along with the running ability. I don't think that we've seen anyone like him before.
Like Curry. Like, don't you look at Curry and you say, I just haven't seen this before, where, it used to be you could pick up a guy at the three-point line or whatever, and now it's like Steph Curry just shoots from the second he enters the building, right? And it goes in. I go in press boxes now, and people aren't even talking to each other. They're just looking down at Twitter, and I say, gosh, I think we all got here because we talked about the game. Pretty soon will Radio Row just be
people tweeting
home.
At each other?
Yes.
Welcome to our Twitter show.
I don't do it because of that.
God bless you, Lesley.
Coming from a writer background from the Boston Globe, which you guys are a little bit young, but it was Murderer's Row. It was Peter Gammons on baseball, Bud Collins on tennis, Bob Ryan on basketball. And people talked. I mean, and it was more than 140 characters. The way to go is not to try to be quick and hot for, a short amount of time, but to be authentic and have longevity. So now should we have the argument? I'm a child of the Red Sox, so should we have the argument of Williams or DiMaggio?
What about Stan Musial?
Not bad. See, that's the only one. I swear to and of course I've had this argument. That is the only one I hate when people bring up because that's a hard one. That's really hard. I always say Williams or DiMaggio, and I can make that argument, but then you throw Musial in there. I have one of his bats.
Dude, I'm telling you, these cats are the real deal. It wasn't until, in my opinion, when they beat Arizona Cardinals in that championship game that people said, wait a minute, these guys are the real deal.
And that was the first game, at least in that previous month or two, where they played that way for the entire 60 because they got out to a huge lead over the Giants towards the end of the year and then let them creep back in. Same thing kind of happened against Green Bay, and then you saw that full 60 minutes. It's kind of a cliche, but that was an example of it.
I study quarterbacks for a living. Montana, beautiful. Elway, beautiful. No doubt about that. Marino, absolutely stunning, beautiful. Warren Moon, you are an absolute beast. But that cat cat right there that I'm pointing to right there, that Cam Newton.
Never been one like it.
Dude, that dude is the best football player on the field, whether you like the dude or not. As a football player, I'm like, I want that cat on my side.
I think you mentioned whether you like him or not. I think the not liking him is a little overblown. I think there's actually the majority of football fans do like him, and I think it's the polarizing aspect is actually more played up than reality, because in reality, all he's doing is celebrating and enjoying himself out on the field. A lot like Brett Favre, one of your contemporaries.
Okay. Dude, we right there, baby. Okay.
I call it like it is, brother.
Okay, let the truth be told. Tell the truth and shame the devil. Let the truth be told up in here.
So it happened, and I hate to say it's like a Justin Timberlake song, but what goes around comes around, right? So you can have you can have my football team for 20 years or so, and now I'll take it back. Thank you very much. But it is interesting that to be undone by one of your own, I think, makes it more painful.
It really got bad when he released the relocation application, the 29 pages, and he just trashed the city, and it was a sales pitch, and a lot of things were exaggerated, and that was really the point where the emotion and anger took over for the majority of people in St. Louis, and rightfully so. And then he comes out after the fact in the LA Times interview with Sam Farmer and says, I still, it's painful, it's not easy to do, not an easy decision. So it's just kind of like, okay.
But that's what people say after they dump a chick, and then they're like,
right.
Oh man, it was great times. Yeah, it was really tough, and she's beautiful, and I wish her the best, and whatever. That's kind of what it feels like. Can I ask what the Jeff Fisher deal is?
The deal is that he is safe because Stan Kroenke just wants to have a team that gets close to being competitive but doesn't really want to win championships.
I don't understand why he seems to be like untouchable. Like he's.
If you fired him though, you're on the hook for $7 million.
No, I understand. Well, why was that contract given to him? I don't understand this idea that an NFL coach has to be compensated beyond the present year. It's not recruiting.
Right.
And this is not college football where you're like, okay, I need to have at least 4 years guaranteed my contracts when I sign a kid, National Sign Day today, that I need to have this time, to make sure that otherwise kids won't sign here. Flawed premise. If you're not good enough, goodbye.
Doug, this must be a huge thrill for you.
Periscope thing?
Being able to come on a St. Louis radio show and Periscope it. I mean, this has got to be a big highlight for you.
You know what? I have now lived. This was a bucket list thing.
Sure.
We've checked it off.
We've got Jason Whitlock of Fox Sports with us right now. Jason, first off, it's good to have you with us. And the house party by the bay seemed to go pretty well for you. Minus, you might be a little in trouble with lap dances.
I'm in trouble. What do you mean? You just referenced the best part of the house party, and you think I'm in trouble?
No, I don't at all.
That's the best thing that's happened on Radio Row this week, in my opinion, of any show. You got Rob Gronkowski having a little bit of fun with Julie Stewart-Binks. Let's not be hypocrites, guys. Let's not pretend like after games, sports writers and sports broadcasters don't hit the strip club.
I think that's a fair point.
Let's be real here. What is equality if women can't be held to the same standards as us? No one has denigrated my journalism career because I go to strip clubs.
That's Jason Whitlock with us from Fox Sports this week, the house party by the bay, and you've got some projects coming up as well. Is that something you were allowed to speak of?
I'm going to have a daily television show on FS1.
They're taking care of you at Fox Sports. Are you glad to be back there?
100%, because I can be 100% me instead of 50%. So, yeah, I love being over at Fox Sports. All week we had been going from 12 to 2 Pacific.
Specifically speaking, yes. Pacific time. Yes. Are you making your way to the game
I'm leaving
Sunday?
Tomorrow. I think I'm actually going out to Vegas to watch it from a sports book. That's my preference.
Now does that mean you're going to lose $47,000 again?
No. I don't want to say what I'm going to bet, but it won't be anywhere close to $47,000. Carolina's going to win this game by 20.
So you don't buy the notion that Denver defense can hold them down?
No. Patrick, I'm glad I made it over. I'm glad you stayed on my back because I would have felt bad if I didn't come by. I've been a big fan of you since Joe Sports fan. I do remember your work. Glad I could stop by and holler at you guys. Y'all should have been Deadspin before Deadspin.
Well, now Deadspin is a cluster of
yes, it is of
anger and disdain.
Angry young hipsters.
Yeah, and nobody wants that. The first ever game at the Edward Jones Dome, you were carried off on the team's shoulders.
Absolutely, you remember that?
I remember that,
there was
Jackie.
Some strong men there that day. I was sitting well over 300 at that time.
I was at that Saturday Night Live 40th anniversary show. There were a lot of interesting people there, including Peyton Manning. I'd never met him before. I'm a big fan of his, and I went up to him. We found ourselves together, walking in line, and he, I'm 6'4". I swear he's 7'6". He's 7.5 feet. Anyway, I looked up at him. I felt 6 years old again, and I said, "Geez, Peyton, I just love everything you do." And he was very sweet. He said, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm starstruck.
So you're gonna be pulling for the Broncos then this weekend, is that right?
Well, I don't know. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Okay.
So my heart was deeply in that. So I'm neither. I'm neither here nor there.
ISIS, that's hard.
Yeah.
Having to stand outside Three Rivers and wait for that nitwit Terry Bradshaw. That was, that was bad, but really.